Gemma Dale is joining us now to get us caught up on what's been happening this week on the nabtrade platform. Have we seen a rise in volumes? Is Fortescue still top of the list? We'll find it all out now. Gemma, welcome. Nice to see you. Was it a busy week on the platform?
It's okay.
Yeah?
It's kind of plodding along at the moment, and people, as you say, like, it feels like it should have been quite a depressing week based on yesterday.
Yeah.
But it hasn't. It was really buoyant earlier. And so we see exactly what we would expect. On the really buoyant days, we see people trimming. On the really depressing days, we see a bit of buying. And so it's fairly consistent, actually, even though the split between buys and sells changes fairly dramatically on what the leads look like.
Yeah, okay, so if we think back to when we were buoyant at the beginning of the week, were people trimming positions, locking in some profits?
Yeah, 100%. And they've been doing that for a while though now. It's all materials for our guys, really. And so a lot of them are they're struggling a bit with the things that have run really well. I want to trim, but every time I trim, it runs a little bit harder and I'm not quite sure what to do there. So Pilbara Minerals and those guys, they're like, oh, I don't know. Take a bit off the table, keeps going. But they enjoy them. At least there's some space in your portfolio, which is not all doom and gloom at the moment.
Yeah, that chart still, when I look at that chart, I still think, oh, that's pretty.
Yeah.
BHP, Fortescue, what's the deal?
It's always Fortescue. That's a trade though, right? So it's a very active trade. It's just looking at the iron ore price overnight, which come off really hard when you consider, what, $220 a ton?
Yeah, it's had a couple better days.
Ago.
Yeah.
But even so, vastly above the long run average, still super profitable. So it's a trade in that you know the company's still just fine. It's not a trade as in this thing's going south, right? So they're just actively trading it. They're doing fine out of that. It's a very sort of small, well-educated cohort who really enjoy that trade, and they keep doing that.
Okay, the banks, we're in bank reporting season, ex-CBA of course, but we've heard from ANZ. We'll be hearing from Westpac and NAB next week. Yeah. I know you said that NAB was a hard sell, I think, at $30.
So this is super interesting. It was a hard sell at $30 and has been for quite a while because people see it pop above that number and then it falls away. It pops above that number, it falls away. So they've seen it kind of hit that number quite a few times. They trim there. $32 something though. That is a hard trim now. They're kind of like, oh, I'm just going to take something off the table for this. So we've seen quite a bit of selling in NAB. Westpac's really mixed. CBA's not in there at all because there's no news, so don't worry about it. And ANZ's a really strong buy. Really strong buy. It was one of the biggest stocks the other day.
I think I've spoken with a few people who said that, the thinking around ANZ is that it's got the biggest, gap to make up. It could, it's got the most upside potential.
Yeah, well, a lot of our guys had the same view on Westpac about 18 months ago. So Westpac has been the reversion to the mean bank, not stock, but bank, for quite some time. And it hasn't really played out at all. So now they're rotating into ANZ and hope that maybe that's the one that is going to come back.
Okay, we had some news out this week as well. Domino's comes to mind just yesterday. What happened?
Domino's is interesting. There was some buying, like it was a strong buy, but on relatively small volumes and relatively small values. And that's quite fascinating to me because I remember many years ago when Domino's was a very hyped stock at the time. Super exciting. Yeah, it was a very exciting stock. Bit of bad news. I want to say it was a Fairfax report talking about underpayment of staff and all this sort of stuff.
And a profit warning this week as well.
Well, it was a profit warning this week, but this was a few years ago when they had that terrible news. Got hit super hard. Our guys were all over it first thing in the morning. There was a lot of aggressive buying at that point in time. It was not that kind of aggressive buying. This was all right, a few of us will pick it up, but not everybody. We're not piling in anymore. And when I look across the book, you're just not seeing those sort of pile-in opportunities when something is sold off. Mostly people are a bit nervous. One that surprised me, I saw EML in there as a sell. Yeah. After another downgrade, another bit of bad news, you can see a few capitulations coming in. We haven't seen that for a while. Okay. So people going, oh, can't do this anymore.
Yeah, well,
Magellan's another one. I'm just not doing it anymore.
Yeah, well, more funds outflows, we learned today, so there you go. When it comes to some of the tech names, because we're seeing a lot of consolidation in some of these Aussie tech names, we've had a lot of quarterlies coming out. Have we seen sort of any big movements there?
The only big surprise was SQ2. We saw a heap of buying, and that's
strange.
Yeah, it is, and it's not been something that we have seen at all. So when the offer was made last year, around that sort of $120, $130 mark. Afterpay was still Afterpay at that point in time. We saw massive selling. Most people just exited the stock completely. They didn't want to hold something more complicated that they had less understanding of. They've done extremely well out of it. It was just a hard sell. All of their holdings were gone. We only have a relatively limited amount of holding now, and yet buying. That never happens. It's quite fascinating.
Interesting. Okay, and international, obviously there's been a lot of pain. There's a lot going on. Tech continues to get hammered. I saw a chart today showing the losses for all these EV companies as well in terms of share price. And it's not just Tesla, like every single, EV related stock is down significantly, double digits, So is there interest or?
Yeah, so we're looking for this capitulation, right? Everyone's hoping to find a floor somewhere, and you're like, has everyone just given up yet? And there's only a handful of things that people have given up in Australia. Mostly everyone's quite happy, right? They're trundling along, just picking up what they like at the margin. International, that's where you see it. You can just see all the energy coming out now, and there's just very limited appetite, very little buying, a bit of selling, volumes are way down. You can just see people going, oh, this is tiring now. Like, I'm just not seeing it anymore. I'll leave that to one side.
Interesting. Any interest in ETFs in this environment while we've got you?
Well, we know that the Vanguard Australian Share Fund, that's the thing that people buy. Down day, they know about it. They know it's coming in the morning and they're all over it. They're buying, hopefully through the day, not first thing in the morning. But they're all over it. So that is always a massive strong buy. It was a huge strong buy yesterday. It'll fall away, then we'll have a down day and they'll be back all over it again. It's a sort of an accumulation.
Okay. Listen, thank you. Nice to see you again on a Friday. We'll let you go and start your weekend hopefully soon.
Always great to see you.
Gemma Dale there joining us from nabtrade.